Welcome to Tommy Solo's Famous Friends. This is where I get to chat with people I've connected with over the years in the world of arts and entertainment. And today I'm glad to welcome back to the show legendary rock drummer Carmine Appice. Welcome back, Carmine.
How you doing?
I'm doing just fantastic. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So, before we hit record, I mentioned that Cactus is back, and you said that it never really went away. So, you are a busy guy, I know that, but what's with this Cactus never going away stuff?
Well, we got back together in 2005, I think it was, and had me, Tim Bogert, and Jim McCarty, and another singer. And we did gig. We've been working ever since. We've been to Europe. We've been to South America. We've been to Japan. We've been all over that with Cactus. So then we just kept going. We had a couple of switch over. So the last couple of years, we did some touring. We did an album on Cleopatra called Tightrope. And they released it in CD and vinyl, and it was a really really good record. And then on Cleopatra, we did a lot of stuff. It seemed to do well on Cleopatra. So we got a call. I got a call from Brian, who owns Cleopatra, and he said, "You think you can do a record that would take in people who are influenced by Cactus?" I said, "Yeah, I could do that and probably get some friends too, that can play on it." So he said, "Yeah." I said, "But I need a budget." So he gave me a budget, and we went out and did it. And I got all my friends. I called Steve Stevens and asked him if he would do it. He goes, "Yeah, man." I said, "I've been influenced by Cactus. I'm from New York." I said, "Oh, wow. That's cool." No, and that was interesting for me. People I thought my friends were influenced by Cactus as well. So I went out and we did it. We did it. And meanwhile, while we're doing it, Cactus has always been a blues rock band. It's always had some blues songs on it, and like Alaska's a stone blues, and all our chord changes, Parchment Farms are blues, and No Need to Worry was always been a blues. So we've always been known as a blues rock band. So I'm watching on my friends like Foghat, Robin Trower. They were hitting the blues charts and Billboard, and I said, "Wow." I said, "We should do that too." So I called Brian. I said, instead of calling this Influences and Friends, we should market it as a blues album because it's blues rock, just like Foghat or just like Robin Trower. He said, "Well, let's call it Temple of Blues." I said, "Great idea. Temple of Blues, Influences and Friends makes a nice title." He said, "Yeah, it's good." So we already have the cover. Have you seen the cover?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's
cover was like my idea to have a Sergeant Pepper kind of cover. When we first did it, the art director put Sergeant Pepper outfits on everybody. I said, "No, I don't mean exactly like Sergeant Pepper." I said just the idea of having everybody that played on the record or worked on the record on the cover.
Well,
So
that's the
we had that.
difference, right? That's the
Yeah,
difference. Everybody on that cover is on the album. The Beatles thing was just a all-star friend
yeah,
fest, whatever. But this
yeah.
album, I got to tell you, Carmine, when I put that on in my truck the other day for the first time, I had been listening to FM rock radio before I put the CD
Right.
in. And I swear to God, from the first note of Parchment Farm, I
Yeah.
had to check my rearview mirror to make sure I hadn't just blown my head off. This is a bombastic. Oh man, this is a great album.
Yeah,
And
it's a great record. I'm glad, I produced it, so let me finish the story with the
sure.
cover. So when I told Brian, okay, so then we said, let's change the cover. Let's make everything in a temple. All the artwork would be in the temple. I said, okay, so we did that. Okay. But as far as the production on it and the sound of it, I had my buddy who's a co-producer on it, Pat Regan, who's an amazing mixer. He's an amazing mixer, and he mixed the whole record. And after he did a mix, he'd send it to me, and I'd check it out. I go, well, at least a little more of this, a little more of that. But he's just amazing. So when we finished the album, and he mastered it as well. Same thing with me. I put it on in my car. I said, "Wow, this thing is like a killer. It kicks ass." It really kicks ass, but it's still blues. It's bluesy, you know? So I was very happy with the way it came out. And then, when we're marketing it as a blues record, I hired the two guys that promoted the Foghat record. And I'm listening to Brian. We're talking every day before it came out. He goes, well, it's in the pre-orders. It's like number 4, number 3, number 5 on the Amazon pre-orders. And then, it was doing great. So when it came out, 2 or 3 weeks later, it hit the Billboard charts at number 3 on blues. I said, I haven't been on any Billboard chart since 1989, the way the music business is today.
Yeah,
So I was like blown away. And we went out and played some shows with Foghat. And some of the guys couldn't make the shows. The Cactus is the kind of band that you can put different people in it. As long as they kick ass in that material, it's the material that sells the band, that Cactus Parchment Farm, that's Cactus,
yeah.
And so we had Tony Franklin playing bass on 3 gigs with Foghat, and we had a new guitar player, Artie Dillon, who played with me and my brother in Drum Wars, in our Drum Wars show, and my singer couldn't make it, so we got my friend Ed Terry, who's I know he's from Long Island. He's a great singer. So he came in and did it, and we went out like with that group, and we kicked ass, And then we continued later on in June, and we got a regular bass player back, and we did a bunch of gigs with that, and it kicked ass again, So now we got some more gigs coming up in 2025, and I want to do a Temple of Blues too. I have some great ideas for it, and we just did a track with Cactus and Melanie.
I was going to
Have you
ask
heard
you about
that?
that. That's the same Melanie that's from
Yeah.
like I got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got it.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
just
It's
amazing.
unbelievable. Did you hear it?
I have heard it. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
unbelievable. She sounds like Janis Joplin.
That
Some of
just
those
blew me away.
screams she did was like, wow. So that's the same thing. Brian called me up and she loved the way the Cactus album sounded. And he said, I'd like to do Melanie with Cactus. I said, what? He said, yeah, I got her singing Purple Haze, because they have the rights. She passed away. They have the rights to her A&I vocal and her vocals.
Uh,
And I said, wow, I'd like to hear that. So he sent it to me. And I said, wow, that's Melanie. That's really, really different, you know? So he said, can you do that? I said, of course I can do that. Come on,
yeah,
So we got it. I sent it to my engineer, Pat. Again, he stretched it out so we could put it on a grid,
okay,
the grid is. So
yeah,
he put it on the grid so the click would run and it would be in time because you can't do that otherwise, when you're recording digitally. So he gave me the vocal and I listened to it and I put an arrangement together in my head, but I started with the drums. So I had her vocal on my drums. I played that for Brian. He goes, oh, that's killer, man. I said, okay. Then I brought in Tony Franklin to play bass and Artie Dillon, our guitar player, to play. And she was singing. And we did an amazing arrangement to her vocal. And then I had my buddy Pat mix it again. It sounds like the Cactus record.
yeah. It's incredible, and I
So
mean,
we're
nobody
going
knows better than you how much the music business has changed over the years, and
oh man,
certainly
forget it.
technology.
Yeah.
That's the
The
kind of thing that
technology is great, but selling it
yeah,
isn't good, you know? I
yeah.
met a guy yesterday. He said there's a woman, a young girl from around here in Florida. She's on TikTok and she just got 100 million views on TikTok. 100 million, you know? I said,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. Does she make money from that? I don't know.
It's hard to say anymore. I talked to somebody who was very big in the Canadian music business as a record company executive and legislator and so on. And he passed away recently as well. But when I talked to him last time, he told me that the breakout tool today is TikTok, but it's not for guys like you and me. It's
No.
for the young people, right? So
Yeah.
all we can do, and kudos to you, you just keep moving. I don't know how you get any sleep, man. The last time I spoke to you, it was about the instrumental album with Fernando Perdomo,
Yeah.
Running Up
Which
That
is
Hill, which is
which
another
is
fabulous
another
project.
great record, but nobody heard it.
Well, it was a great project, and then I felt like I had to talk to Fernando too because I'm thinking, who's this guitar player?
He's
And now
amazing.
I see he's everywhere. He's on the Temple of Blues as well. I
Yes.
wanted to
Yeah.
talk to you about King Cobra after the
Right.
running up that hill,
Right.
but you are so busy and you had switched PR companies, and before I could even figure out who to reach out to, you've got this Temple of Blues thing going on. So, and talk about an all-star lineup, man. The names, like I said, mentioned before,
No.
Joe Bonamassa, Dee Snider. It's come a long way since Cactus was originally formed. I mean, you had Jim McCarty on
Yep.
guitar,
Yep.
it was Tim Bogert on bass, and
Originally.
and then Rusty Dave from the Amboy
Yes.
Dukes was the singer.
Yep. Yep.
Now you've got a totally different lineup today. Now you've mentioned that it's kind of a musical chairs to a point,
Yeah.
but uh, how do you tour an album like this?
Well, you really don't tour. You do some individual dates, you know. Luckily, I guess you don't have to sell a lot to get on the blues charts, you know. So what you would normally sell, you wouldn't even hit the rock charts anymore, you know. But it was so much fun doing it because, like I did Joe Bonamassa's podcast, and he started out with, man, when I heard Cactus Parchment Farm, it blew my brains out. I said, well, it's funny you should say that because I'm doing this album. I would love for you to play Parchment Farm. And he said, I'll do it. So, I knew certain things, like I knew guys from King's X were big Cactus fans. I knew they would do it. Now I got Bonamassa, and I knew Dee Snider loved Evil because he did it on an album called Widowmaker with one of my drum students, Joe Franco. And he said, oh man, you should call Dee. He loves Cactus. I said, okay. So I called Dee, and he said he would do it. And I knew the guys from King's X would do it. I knew Ted Nugent loved Cactus. So I knew he would do it. So I had some people I knew would do it. So I just went from there. When I called like Ted, I said, well, what song do you want to do? He says, I want to do One Way or Another. I said, okay, I'm going to get Doug Pinnick to play bass and let him sing it because he's a great singer. And Doug said, yeah, man, no problem. And then that's how it went. But the funny thing about this record, it started out in my studio here. You see my drums there?
Yeah,
Well, you can't see my drums. Hold on.
I can see them. Yeah,
You see my drums? All
right
right.
there with your gold records. Yeah.
Yeah, with all the gold records. So that's my studio. I live in Florida. This is a guest house here. I'm sitting now in the kitchen part of the guest house, which I use for my room mics. And I did the whole record, started with the drums, which is very strange. I don't know anyone that starts with the drums. Okay. So I put the click on like Parchment Farm. I got the tempo from the original album. I put it up. It's 247 beats per minute. Just going like tick, 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 right? So I put that on for like 3 or 4 minutes. And then I said, it goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, this is, I'm singing to myself. Sitting over here in my Parchment. And that's how I did Parchment Farm. Okay. And then I did One Way or Another like that. And then I said, this is too difficult. I have to play to something. I can't be thinking about everything. So then I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put the click down and I'm going to sing those parts into the microphone. So I don't have to think about it. Then I have something to play to. And it's also like it gave me a map of the song and where I'm going. And that's how I did the rest of the album. And then once I got that down, then I'd send it to my singer who didn't go on tour, but he was on tour with us the last tours we did. And he put a guitar, a vocal, and harmonica where it needed. And then we sent it to our bass player who put a bass on it. So now everybody has home studios. So we did that, and now we had demos of each song. And now it's easy to say, okay, Ted, you want to do One Way or Another? Here's One Way or Another without the vocal.
Right.
And then once Ted got on it, then we put Doug on it, then we put his vocal on it. And we just built the whole album like that. But you'd never know that this was done without not anyone in the studio together.
That seems to be the result of COVID. A lot of long distance recordings. I've done a few recordings in the last few years where it was just the producer and I in the room and everybody else was, somewhere else.
Yeah,
But
what do you play?
yeah,
What do you play? You play guitar? What do you
I've
play?
got guitars behind me, keyboards, and I sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just actually recently did some session work for a Canadian artist who has a couple of gold records on his wall.
Oh,
And when
nice.
I was working with my producer, you talk about the click track. This guy is a brilliant musician, but he sent me this song without a click, and
Oh,
there's some
forget
time
it.
signature changes. And so it was a bit of a challenge. But, I've always said
It is a
when it
challenge.
comes to my music, I can't do it without a rock solid drummer. So it's hard for me
Yeah.
to imagine why anybody wouldn't just be over the moon for the opportunity to play with you. I mean,
Well, I got that from a lot of people, and for me, it's like, wow, I'm like wowing to play with them, you
yeah,
know?
well, you're living inside your own skin, right? But
Yeah, yeah,
I've always said without a good drummer, your band is nothing,
without
and
a doubt. The
it's got to
heartbeat
be
of the
rock,
drums
rock solid.
are solid and energetic. And I learned to play with a click where I don't play exactly with the click. I go a little behind it, a little ahead of it, going like this. So it sounds real, you know. It doesn't. I'm going to be doing a clinic in Long Island. Where are you at?
I'm in London, Ontario, Canada.
Okay, I'm going to be doing one in Long Island, and right now I'm doing a really wild project. I have this Rod Stewart show. It's called um, Tonight's the Night, celebrating the music and legacy of Rod Stewart. I'm not calling it a tribute because I hate the word tribute, because I'm playing the songs that I worked with Rod on, you
Right.
know, and I played them. So it's like a tribute to myself, you know. Then we got the sax player to play with Rod 14 years, this woman named Katra. And I got a guy named Rod Caudle that looks and sounds and dresses, and he lives Rod Stewart. So we're doing a gig in where is it? I think it's
Long Island,
Palm Springs.
oh, Palm Springs.
So what I'm doing is I'm working with the guy writing the orchestra charts, you know, and we talk about without a click. We had a live show we sent him, but it was difficult to get the orchestra lined up with the live show because we're not clicks. We're human, so it goes like this. So what I started doing, which brought me to the fact of the click, I got Fernando to do 7 songs left that we busted our ass to do. We did 4 songs without the click, and it was easy with some of them. Like some guys have the luck, everything's 8 notes. It was easy. Tonight's the that's tonight. Tonight. Young Turks was fairly easy, but when you get like Tonight's the Night, it wasn't easy. So I said to Fernando, "Can you do these songs to a click?" He said, "Yeah." So yesterday, I played myself to Infatuation with the click that I'm going to give to the guy who's doing the charts, which would be easy now. Now it's all to a click, so he could line his machine that prints out the music and the charts to 90 beats per minute, let's say, and then I'm on 90 beats per minute, and they'll line up.
Right.
But even if I got a PC, he's got a Mac. Even when it's together, my PC doesn't play it properly.
Uh,
The Mac plays it properly. So it's really crazy. So anyway, I'm going to take this infatuation track to the clinic. I'm going to use it as a demonstration on how to play to a clinic and how to play to it without sounding like a machine.
that's a trick. I
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
a drummer in my band for years who's a Canadian legacy artist and was in a very well-known Canadian band, and he played to the click on stage, off stage, whatever, but he got to the
Oh,
point
yeah.
where it was too perfect.
Yeah.
And we had to go in a different direction because I felt like there was no breath there.
No, no.
Now, you
There's
mentioned Rod
certain,
Stewart. It's
yeah,
interesting. I just recorded a song. I've got a new single coming out soon. My producer had me play 16th notes all the way through it
I'm
for
right.
about 4 minutes. And I tell
I'm
you,
right.
my forearm felt like it was dying at the end of
I'm,
it.
I'm,
So I
I'm
gave it to my bass
what
player and I
instrument?
said,
What
listen to
instrument?
Forever Young.
What instrument?
Well, I was playing the 16ths on the guitar.
Okay.
But I gave it to my bass player and I said, listen, you can't play the 16th notes with me. I want you to listen to Forever Young. So he got an idea what a bass player should do when you've got that kind of action going on.
Hmm. It's
You
funny.
know,
I just listened to Forever Young this morning that Fernando did. You know, I'm going to play that. You know, I'll play that, and in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have all the songs done. You know, to give it to the guy.
very
But
nice.
yeah, but you know, that's I didn't think it was going to be such a big deal. You know, here's the songs, a live show, put the music, the orchestra stuff to it. But then, you know, like when you listen back and it's, you know, it's like the orchestra isn't playing with the tracks of the live stuff. Like we do You Keep Me Hanging On that Rod did when I was in the band. And it's one of the major songs in our show. And in the second verse, he was doing different intervals that I said, man, how the hell is that going to work? But he said, you got to hear it with the chords on, you know, that the band's playing. But I couldn't do that because it wasn't in time. So I got the orchestra and I got our track and I spent hours cutting on my computer, you know, on my Cubase, just making it kind of in time. I can hear it. Once I did that, I said, oh, I see what he's saying. Oh, that is pretty cool. You know, so now it's going to be a lot easier having a click, me playing drums on it. So uh, it's going to sound natural rather than
Right.
just pop, 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 you know? And
It's
Fernando plays like that too. He's not click, click, click guy, you know, but the click is there just to hold it all together.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. You know, they don't understand. It's like a road. You stay on the road, but there's going to be some curves. You know, there's
Yes.
going to be some potholes and whatnot.
Yep.
You
That's
just
right.
stay on the road, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me that the fans have no idea how much work goes into this stuff. You know, and I've often
No.
said that if I'm going to put all that time and effort into a project, I want it to be my own material. I'm very impressed with tribute acts that do, you know, the
Yeah.
note for note stuff. And in your case, like you say, it's not really a tribute because you were part of
No.
it.
We're
You know,
part of it. Like you know, like the last gig we had, Catra played with Rod for 14 years. So what they've been doing, Rob, the singer, had a drummer, his brother, played with them for forever. So he played the stuff almost exactly like the record. But he, like Tonight's the Night, he played with four on the bass drum, like, tonight's the night. It's not the way it's played. It's played at boom, she got boom. It swings, you know?
right.
So so she says to me, you know, we had a second drummer do it, who was one of my students. I brought him in to do, and he played to a click the first day. And I said, dude, are you playing to a click? I said, you forget about the click. You're dragging the band down, you know? So he stopped, but he did a good job playing. But then you know, it got to the point where by flying him in and out from New York and it just got too expensive. So I said, look, I'll just play the first part of the show because we would do what I call the wimpy rod, you know, which some guys have a little luck, Forever Young, and you know, those kind of songs. If I told you lately I love you, those kind of songs. And then he'd introduce me, and then we come out and we do all the big songs that he had, you know, Hot Legs and you know, Young Turks and Passion and You're in My Heart and Tonight's Tonight, all that stuff that I play with, you know, like then we do Do You Think I'm Sexy and Maggie, and then we do You Keep Me Hanging On. It was really a highlight of the show. So I said, look, I'll play the songs. So I played the songs, and the last show, Catcher told me, you better study these songs because you're not playing them, you know, right. I said to the singer, look, I'm not playing them right. I'm driving the band. That's what I'm doing. I'm pushing and driving the band, you know. And that's what I did with Rod. I said, with songs that I didn't play on, I played it. Carmine played it. You know, I didn't play it like the record. I played it to drive the band in the show,
Well,
make it
there's a
powerful,
difference.
you
There's
know?
a difference between live and studio, right? And there's this
Exactly.
certain energy that's missing live when you just play perfectly. And I talked to another producer recently, and he says that he gets these metal bands that go into the studio, and his number one comment is, "Stop being so bloody perfect."
Yep.
You know,
Well,
like
that's what they
with
are.
the technology today, you know, and you talk cut and paste and this and that, and some of it is so rigid, it's unbelievable. So it's good to
Totally,
have something
Richard.
like I say this Cactus album. When I put
Yeah.
it on, and man, I want to talk to you about Long Tall Sally.
Yeah.
Hey, whose idea was to slow that down? That is so righteous now. I mean, when you
We
get that
had we
song and
had
somebody
that
can go,
we had that
yeah,
oh
yeah,
God.
that kind of vocals,
I
you
didn't
know,
even remember back then, you know. We just we just like to do different arrangements of like Parchment Farm. I didn't know that was a blues song. I didn't know that. I wasn't into blues. Rusty Day was a blues, and Jim McCarty, they were like really into blues. So when we jammed that tempo in that song, that could have been anything. It wasn't about the song Parchment Farm, you know. He could have sang any of Rusty's lyrics. He was a great melody and lyric guy.
yeah.
I thought that's what he was doing. So when it came out and they said, "Oh, this was written by Mose Allison, whoever it was," I said, "Wow, I didn't know that." Because all these other songs we did One Way or Another and Let Me Swim and Rock and Roll Children, we just jammed it and he sang on it, you know. And like I say, that song could have been anything. It's not about it was Parchment Farm. The lyrics didn't sell that song. The melody didn't sell that song. It was freaking playing sold that song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the musical chemistry. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
nobody played a song like that. That was the very first fast double bass drum song that was around in 1970. Then Billy Cobham did one in 1972, and people used to argue that well, who did it first. I did it first. It was 1970, and you know who's big fans of Cactus? Van Halen. You look at Eruption, that
yeah,
song Eruption. It's not a song, you know what it is, right?
yeah, yeah.
Listen to the beginning of Let Me Swim. I deliberately extended it, and I put a great guitarist like Doug Aldrich on it. So it goes like blam, the guitar, blam, 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 guitar, right?
Yeah.
That's Eruption, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Same
that's
idea.
why
Yeah.
it's the same thing. They love Cactus. So when they did Hot for Teacher, Alex told me the the what do you call it? The roadmap for Hot for Teacher was Parchment Farm.
Ah.
You could hear Hot for Teacher, the double bass, you know, and Parchment Farm.
No, this is
It
definitely
was
an
the
impressive
model.
album. This is an impressive album, and it's out now on Casablanca and
No, 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 Cleopatra.
Sorry, Cleopatra. My
And
apologies.
Casablanca is no more.
You're right. Yeah, Cleopatra. That's right. And there's a Bandcamp page for Cleopatra where everybody can pick it up. And I
Yeah,
highly recommend that people do because, man, I'm still listening to it in my truck, and it's
yeah.
just
You don't get tired of listening to it. I tell you, every time you listen, you hear something else. You know, and all the people that play like Doug Aldrich on Let Me Swim is a monster. You know, with Malcolm Mendoza from Whitesnake and Ted Nugent playing bass, good friends of mine, killer. He even did a thing where at the beginning when doo doo doo, just like Tim did, because Tim played, he was really off the wall bass player, you know, and all the guys did a great job. Restrictions, you know, which was I wrote with Rusty Day in my basement on an old Lowry organ. I played the things he sang, and I played the chords. And then we brought it to the band. Then we arranged it with the band, and their third album, people love it. I mean, King's X, they took so much from Cactus and different things. He told me, he said you guys were definitely mentors of the band. You know, I love those guys. They're so great and they're so easy to get along with. You know, and some guys didn't even get paid. You know, like the blues with Warren Haynes. He played the guitar and the vocal at the same time in the same room with himself. You know, but the ballad started, that blues started with the drums. Think about playing that, you know, by yourself, you know,
well, I was
just
going to
singing it
say
to
that
yourself.
you're not the typical drummer. I think what separates you from a lot of guys, aside from your brilliant playing, is that you have a very musical ear. You know, there's not a lot of not a lot of drummers out there who write songs.
Yeah,
So to have
yeah,
that melodic ear and to have the technical ability you have on the drums goes a long way. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you
I
guys,
tell people like when I'm going to do this clinic, I do that track. I'm going to show them that I play melodic drums. I try and make them melodic, and I listen to the vocal or whatever the lead thing is. Like with me and Fernando, you know, the instrumental album. I mean, we got screwed on that album. That should have been for the Grammys in the rock instrumental department. They put us in a regular album,
mm,
along with Taylor Swift. I said, how can you do that? It's a rock instrumental, you know? Because I consider that stuff, you got like Jeff Beck doing those kind of records, but his records were more jazz rock,
yeah,
you know? We were more rock jazz. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It was a rock basis rather than a jazz basis. It was very progressive rock kind of stuff, time signatures and great melodies. And we redid that Running Up the Hill song. I thought that was so good.
It was.
It
It
was so
is.
good in the video. Have you seen the video for the Drum City
Yes.
track?
Yeah. Last time we spoke,
It's
I
brilliant,
had,
brilliant video.
yeah,
I mean, that's my artwork. I have it up on my wall here, Drum City.
yeah.
And my editor, he animated it so it worked. And cars were running and things were going up and down. That was great.
No, the
It was
videos
great.
were great. The music is great. And I mean, if you haven't heard it yet, people check out the
A piece
Appice
Perdomo,
Perdomo,
both records
Running Up
are
That
great.
Hill is brilliant. And
Yeah.
again, on Cleopatra Records, not
Yeah. So I don't
Cactus.
think Cleopatra got it, you know. I don't think they knew what to do with it, to tell you the
It's
truth.
interesting, that people put labels on us. I've never been what I would consider a pop artist myself, but for years and years, I was nominated as pop artist of the year for the London Music Awards, and I always had to scratch
Oh,
my
no
head like,
kidding. That's
how is
great.
that?
Good for you. I'm
But
still
I mean,
waiting. I'm still waiting for a nomination from the Grammys for something. If
it's
I had a
bound.
nomination for some, we just put it in for this Cactus album in the blues department. I mean, if I get a nomination, I'm happy. I mean, I got all these awards over him.
Yeah,
I got the heavy metal award, and Vanilla Fudge got the music award and Long Island Music Award, and certificates from this one and that one, and you know, but I never had any nomination for Grammy. I even had a proclamation for Los Angeles, Carmine Appice Day in Los Angeles, you know, but I never got a nomination for a Grammy. My daughter, who does special effects makeup, she's had 5 nominations for Emmys. You
mm.
know, I said, man, you're doing better than me. But
Oh,
if
these
I just love to have the nomination for something, whether I win or not, I don't care. The
that's it.
nomination is good enough for me.
That's
You
it.
know,
I kind of kid around about being nominated for the, pop artist, but you can't downplay that stuff. It's
no, it's
cool that
great.
people
It's a great
recognize you
thing.
whether you win or not, right?
Exactly. As long as you got the nomination, you're good.
Yeah.
I mean, like for me, I get nominated. I'm in the Rock Hall, Modern Drummer Hall of Fame, this Hall of Fame as a person, you know. But it would be nice to get as an album, especially these albums I produced. Like I said, we got screwed out of that a piece Perdomo album. Man, that was a great rock instrumental album. I don't know any other rock instrumental albums that were around. I don't even know any rock
Yeah,
instrumental. I mean,
like you say,
yeah,
you were just in the wrong category for,
totally,
but
totally.
so this album, Temple of Blues, is brilliant. And again, people, you got to go out and get it. What's next for you, Carmine?
Well, beside the Rod thing now, I hope we do a Temple of Blues too, because I think what's going to be on it is that Melanie song. And then they got the rights to a guy named Junior Wells. You know who Junior Wells is?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, so they already want me to do Cactus with Junior Wells doing. They said you pick the song, so we're looking around for a song. But I also want to do that, and then I got about 3 or 4 songs from Howlin' Wolf, where the Evil song came out of. That would be good to redo with Cactus, as well as maybe 3 or 4 more Cactus songs that we missed on this record. So that's what I'm planning. I said to Brian, I said, we should do Temple of Blues too. He said, let's let this one run its run its course, and then we'll do it. I said, because that took me 9 months to make that record or more, you know.
It's a
So
lot of work.
it's a
Absolutely a
lot of
lot of
work,
work.
but I'm prepared to do number two, and maybe we found a niche for Cactus, you know.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to everything new from Cactus and everything new from you. I don't want to take
Okay,
up your whole day, Carmine. I know you're
no
very
problem.
busy, man. I do want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this with me once again. And until next time, cheers.
Okay, cheers, mate.
Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a one-man production, meaning that I've done all the work, including recording, editing, guest acquisition, etc. And check out the articles based on my interviews at 519 Magazine. That's 519magazine.com. The theme song for Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a clip from my original composition, The Burn, all rights reserved. If you enjoy the show and you'd like to help us keep it going, why don't you click on the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. We really appreciate it. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, cheers.